Today, we're going to run through bold predictions. And my number one is the offensive line won't be as much of a concern as people think.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I have some bold predictions for us. And as I said, the first one I think is, ironically, there's some bold ones on here. And I think the first one could be one of the boldest. And that is the offensive line won't be as much of a concern as people are anticipating. So, let's call a spade a spade. Texas A&M fans, national writers, people around college football, there's a lot of concern about Texas A&M's offensive line. It's not a secret. And some of it could be uncertainty. Perhaps it's not all concern for, man, this unit just can't be good. Some of it's just, hey, this unit needs to figure it out, because if it's not good, Texas A&M is going to struggle to move the football. So, the more I look at this unit and break down these players, the offensive line was not great last year. It was not. But you still bring a lot of starts back to this team. You bring a lot of experience back to this offensive line. You've got a lot of size, and you've got a lot of, a good size, a lot of tall, strong players, a lot of good weight. Obviously Tommy Moffitt has worked to add to that or take away from that. So I've just got this feeling, and this is one of those, I think that Cushing is a great offensive line coach. I really do. And I think people who are concerned about the offensive line are not totally, are not totally accounting for the fact that he's had months and months and months to work with this group. Now, is this going to be a huge difference? It's still to be seen. But, here's the deal. I think people forget, myself included at times, coaching matters. Having a good coach matters. And, I remember in high school, I had one good offensive line coach and one bad offensive line coach. And, who helped me be the best player was the good offensive line coach. That's just reality. So, could a new offensive line coach, a new voice in this offensive line room, really make a difference for the Aggies? And I think it could. So, that's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. But I'm telling y'all, I think that we need to put more stock and more credit into Coach Adam Cushing. I think that you have, and I've talked about this, you have two different lineups you could use at offensive line, both of which would give you a really solid unit. I think this is a solid group of players with a high upside. You just need a coach to put it all together, and I believe the Aggies have that in Coach Cushing, who has put talent in the NFL, developed talent. I believe he can do it. I am not concerned about what he's going to be able to do. Then my next bold prediction is, now this one, people are going to yell at me, but I'm going to say it. I think Conor Weigman will finish as a top 3 quarterback in the SEC. You got to remember, fans of other teams that are grumpy about some of these are bold predictions. These are not, this is bold. This is, everything has to go right for this to happen. And one thing I trust more than anybody in YouTube comments, more than any, college football writer, more than myself, is the NFL scouts. NFL scouts don't mess around, because They're drafting, they're scouting players. It's their job. It's what they do for a living. And the NFL loves Conor Weigman. Absolutely loves Conor Weigman. They believe his upside is through the roof. They believe he's a potential first round pick. So here's the deal. If that ceiling hits this year, and I think, the other day I called Conor Weigman the best kept secret in college football, and he is. People aren't talking a lot about Conor Weigman. People aren't talking enough about Conor Weigman because people don't know about Conor Weigman. People, the average college football fan doesn't know about him because he played a few games last year before getting hurt against Auburn, played a few games the year before. He showed flashes, he showed signs in those different games and in those different, opportunities, but he has not broken out. And when he breaks out, it is going to be scary for college football. That is one thing I can tell you with certainty, is it will be scary for college football. And I think that if he does hit this ceiling, we got Quinn Ewers is a great quarterback. Jackson Dart's a great quarterback. Cook over at Missouri. But once again, Cook over at Missouri, he's a game manager. I think if he has a good year and Conor Weigman has a good year, Conor Weigman's good year is better than Cook's good year. So, Mertz has played a lot of college football. You've got Milroe over at Bama as a great player. But, what I'm saying is if all goes right and Weigman hits his ceiling this year, I think he can finish as a top 2 quarterback in the conference. I really do think that's possible. So it'll be – and I think that if you said top 4, it's safer because you got Milroe, you got Dart, and you got Ewers. Then you could have Conor Weigman at 4 there. I think that's a lot of a safer prediction, but top 3, I think he can outplay one of those guys. My next prediction is whoever is linebacker 2. We've talked about, could it be DeShields from Pitt? Could it be Scooby Williams from Florida? Whoever ends up being linebacker 2, I think is going to have a good season. I just think this defensive coaching staff is so elite. I think that this defensive staff won't have any issue developing talent. And I think that this linebacker room, yes, there are clearly concerns with depth as a whole in this room, but you know what you have in York. All you need is this second guy to have a good year. You don't need him to be elite. You don't need him to be a great player. You need him to be, you need him to be York's PIC, partner in crime. That's what you need to have happen here. And if he is, well, if whoever wins this job is his partner in crime and has a solid season, this is going to be a really good linebacker room because we already know how good Terran York's going to be. So, and I said we'll be good. I didn't say we'll be elite. I didn't say it's going to be competing for all SEC honors. None of that. I just think that whoever is linebacker 2, I think even let's say Sanford wins the job. I think you do. There are some concerns with depth, knowing that you've got a couple of these veterans that haven't played a lot of snaps, Johnson and Sanford. And then you've got players, well, not technically veterans, but at least have been around. Then you've got the transfers. You've got Scooby, you've got DeShields, and then the freshmen. So you lose a couple guys in this room, you're going to get real thin real fast, is my only concern with the linebacker room. But if you stay healthy, I think you've got 3 or 4 players that are going to have really good seasons, and they'll be great on this team. So I feel pretty good about this linebacker room. We are going to talk about some more bold predictions. I've got one. Like I said, people always joke and say, Andrew, you people always tell me I'm too negative on here. And I'll tell you, I think I'm too positive on here. But I do have one negative bold prediction. And I'm telling y'all, I've discussed this before. Some people don't love this conversation, but at the end of the day, I got to talk about it. And I think that some aren't as concerned about this as me. And listen, I'm going to be a stickler about this. I'm not letting this go. I have genuine concerns about this position group, and we're going to talk about it coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop, But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. We've all been there. All we got really is the MLB right now. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. I'm telling you right now, do yourself a favor. Head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Okay, let me be negative here for 1 second. Don't want to be on this beautiful Tuesday morning, but we got to. And I know that we've had, I think it was Mr. ATM that in the YouTube comments. Listen, I love you. You're an everydayer. I know you told me this conversation annoys you, but you got to hear me out. I really want y'all to hear me out on this. Because as my job here is to be positive, but it's also to share when I have concerns. And my bold prediction here is I think the wide receiver room is going to be more concerning than people give it credit for, the more concerning than people believe to be the case right now. So I want to try, and sometimes I like to make arguments a few different times so that like I can, hey, let me try and get this across better. Sometimes maybe I don't explain. So give me one more shot at this. Hear me out on this. So, wide receiver rooms, you have to have one guy, and this is just the reality. Look at every successful offense in the NFL. Look at successful offenses in college football. Every offense that succeeds has one receiver that is the guy. That's just the reality. You've got to have the top dog receiver, the guy that is going to, hey, you get me the football on 3rd and 7. I'm going to run a slant. I'm going to run 13-yard out, whatever you want to do. I'm going to run this route. Throw me the football. I will catch it. I will be open. You got to have that guy. And does Texas A&M have that guy? That is my concern. I know you've got a lot of talent. You've got a lot of young guys with upside. You've got a lot of veterans. The Jabri Barber situation. And I still haven't heard any. Actually, speaking of which, let's go ahead and give that a little Google search here. Let's see if we've got any kind of update on Jabri Barber. I haven't heard one. Nope. Everything's just from April saying he had several months following foot surgery. Several months quotes, so we really don't know what that might mean. But I love see, and this is what I want to continue to reiterate. I love Texas A&M's top 3 guys: Noah Thomas, Janae Walker, and then of course Moose. And I could be wrong, and this could not be a concern at all. All it would take for me to be quiet and stop griping about this would be one guy just stepping up and being the guy that I'm talking about. And I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. I am simply saying if there's not someone that is demanding the football, saying, hey, you got to get me the football here. It's 3rd down and 7. Get me the dang football. If there's not somebody that is able to kind of be that guy, I think that is a bit concerning. That's just the reality here. I do think that's concerning. I think that Noah Thomas and Janae Walker can both be that guy. I think they're both really good receivers, but are they a wide receiver 1? And that is all they have got to prove to me. That's all I need to see is that these guys can be a wide receiver 1. One of them. If someone can prove that to me, then I'm done talking about this. It's over. The conversation is no more. It's not a conversation worth having. But until someone proves that to me, it's going to continue to be a concern. So, let me ask you. I'm going to ask you all for this. If you are a person who is not in any way, shape, or form concerned about the wide receiver room, let me know in the YouTube comments why. How about this? Console me, make me feel better. Tell me why you aren't concerned at all about the wide receiver room. I really want to hear y'all's thoughts. Like I said, seriously, hey, make me feel better about it. So leave that in the YouTube comments. My next bold prediction is the Aggies go 9-3. Now, I've said that I think this is a realistic possibility before, but my 9-3 is different than what I previously listed it as. I think the Aggies go 9-3 with a road loss. I previously listed my path to 9-3 as going 1-3 in those tough games at home, and then going undefeated away from Kyle Field, including the neutral site game with Arkansas, the road games against Auburn and Florida. I have a feeling that Texas A&M is going to run into a bump on the road against either Auburn or Florida, one of those two teams. And I still don't know which one. We're going to cross over again with Zach Blackerby Locked on Auburn. It's been one of the shows while I'm in Spain. Him and I are recording that on Friday. But, I think that you're going to run into a bump somewhere on the road, one of those two games. And so you go, oh no, our chances of going 9-3 are out the window. Not true. All you got to do is win two of those tough games at home. And I'm just telling you, I think that all four of those teams that have to come to Kyle Field, Texas, Missouri, LSU, and Notre Dame, I think that all four of those teams are more talented than you. Not Missouri. Missouri's probably not more talented than you. But, good when it comes to like, blue chip ratio and stuff like that. But good, they're elite football teams, really good teams, top 15, top 20 teams for a reason. And I think that you can go 2-2 in those games. And if you go 2-2 in those games and then lose one to Auburn or Florida, you're still 9-3. And that's a record that every Texas A&M fan should be happy with if Coach Elko were to go 9-3 in his first year. But the wins that I think are most, I would say, I think that the Aggies beat Notre Dame and Missouri. I think those are the two. I believe Missouri is going to be a good football team. I do. But at the same time, I do have concerns about the long-term, the long term of this, what do you call it? Of that program. I mean, the short term. I just, maybe both. I don't know. I just, let me see it one more year, Missouri. Like, let me see it one more year. And I've said that. I've gone back and forth on that. On is Missouri the real deal? Yes, they clearly still have more to prove. But I think that if they prove it, I'll be all in on Missouri. But I still think that it's not going to be an easy place for them to. They're not going to walk into Kyle Field and just easily win this football game. So I think those are the two most winnable. And I think that, I think the Aggies will go 9-3 with a road loss, which means they got to go 2-2 in those four big home games I talk about all the time. Got a few more bold predictions here, ladies and gentlemen, including an award Coach Elko could potentially win, and how good the tight ends could be for this team, and then what could Colin Klein's upside be, some running back conversations, and a little bit about the secondary. We'll have all those conversations and bold predictions coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. My next bold prediction has to do with Coach Elko, and it is, I believe, Coach Elko, and he'd have to go 9-3, but that was our previous bold prediction, so we're going to piggyback off it. Coach Elko wins SEC Coach of the Year. I think the only thing that there's a couple things that could get in Coach Elko's way. It's if Texas has a good year in its first year in the SEC and they give it to Sark. That's one. The second would be if DeBoer has a good year over at Alabama in his first year at Alabama, because they love, to give first-year coaches these awards. So if one of those two coaches, and obviously Sark is not a first-year coach, but he's first-year coach in the SEC, as is DeBoer. If they have a good season at their respective schools, I do think they could get in the way. I think 10-2 for DeBoer or Sark would win it over 9-3 from Elko. That's just the reality. Even though I think the 9-3 from Elko would be a little bit more impressive, just knowing what he took over, what he built. But I think that just kind of be the reality of the cards you're dealt there. But I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility for Coach Elko to win SEC Coach of the Year, especially if he goes 9-3. But I think it would take a little bit of help. I think you would need the Longhorns to lose a few games, and you would need the Crimson Tide to lose a few games. The next thing I have here is I think Donovan Green is going to be a top 3 tight end in the SEC. There's a few tight ends in the SEC that are supposed to have good seasons. There's no Brock Bowers. There's no guy like that. But there's still some solid tight ends in this room. But listen, if Donovan Green is utilized as well as we believe he's going to be by Coach Klein, and he's going to have as good of a season as we think he can, he very well could be a top 3 tight end in the SEC. I don't think this one's that bold, in all honesty, knowing that Donovan Green more than likely is going to be the tight end 1 in a Colin Klein system. I mean, are you kidding me? We discuss this all the time here at Locked On Aggies, but Coach Klein loves getting the football to his tight ends. He loves feeding his tight ends. That's just what he likes to do, who he likes to get the football to, who he likes to get involved. So I don't think he's going to have any issues at all getting the football to Donovan Green and utilizing him well. So I think that this is pretty simple. I think if Donovan Green has the season that I'm expecting him to have, that he's going to be a top 3 tight end in the SEC. So, we know what Coach Klein can do with tight ends, and I think you're going to see him do that with these guys. So, Donovan Green, I think this one, like in all honesty, to me, isn't even that bold. I think if Donovan Green has a mediocre to solid season with the role he's going to have, that he very well could be a top 3 tight end in the SEC. The next thing I have here is I think the running backs, the tandem of Le'Veon Moss and Reuben Owens end up being a top 5. This ends up being a top 5 room in college football, not in the SEC, in college football. Now, you're going to need a little bit of help from our first conversation, and that is the offensive line. The offensive line has to create room for these guys. The offensive line has to make holes for these running backs to run. But I think that Reuben Owens and Le'Veon Moss are 2 of the most talented running backs in all of college football. And, Reuben Owens, Le'Veon Moss, another year in college football. Reuben Owens, that 5-star leap from freshman to sophomore year that you're supposed to take, I think he's going to take it. It would not end up as any sort of surprise to me if this running back room was top 5 in the SEC. And you've still got behind those 2 guys, you've got guys that are really solid running backs that can help you. It's a great room. It's a room where if someone were to go down, get banged up, you have plenty of other guys that can come in and help and have good seasons. So I'm telling y'all, I am all in on this running back room. I think this unit's going to be elite. I think as long as this offensive line is able to create holes, is able to give them some space to run through, which, as I said to begin the show, I think they will. I think that's going to be a reality. I think that if all that happens, this running back room is going to be an elite room that doesn't have any trouble at all running the ball, scoring touchdowns, finding holes, getting to the edge, picking the right hole when you're running through the gut. I think this running back tandem is going to be really, really good, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. I want to continue. I'm going to try and say this a couple times at the end of the week this week, but I am going out of town, and next week I will be in Spain for the running of the Bulls, which we will see if I end up running with the Bulls because I dislocated my patella a few weeks ago, and we're trying to get healthy. We're feeling good. I'd say I'm back up to about 93%, but I'd like to be at like 96% to run with the Bulls. But so the schedule, I will have episodes out Monday the 8th, Wednesday the 10th, Thursday the 11th, and then I'll have an episode out Monday the 15th. I get home Wednesday evening, the 17th, and then I will have shows for you on the 18th and 19th. So you will have 3 episodes of Locked On Aggies those next 2 weeks, and then when that following week, the 22nd through the 26th, you'll have 5 shows as normal. Obviously, the 29th through the 2nd, same there. So that's the schedule. I'll continue to explain that and let y'all know that so nobody forgets and everybody's prepared for it. But that is the plan here for the show while I am out of town. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. Hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their day today, and we will see you tomorrow.